Welcome back. I'm Peter Fairfield, and right now I want to talk to you about what it means to be a complete human. There's so many versions of this, but I want you to think about what I'm going to talk about. We have, obviously, a physical self that comes through a genetic momentum. Rupert Sheldrake talks about a morphogenic resonance, which is kind of a resonance in consciousness and category. We also have a spiritual connection, and there's a physiology to all this. So the goal of my working with people is to connect these various parts, which I'm just about to talk about, so that eventually we are a whole integrated person. So when we talk about heart physiology, and I'll go into that more in another segment, but what I want to say here is the heart embryologically comes down from the crown into the chest. So energetically and spiritually and multidimensionally speaking, the heart is connected to the higher dimensions and more subtle dimensions of consciousness. Now there's a lot of information about that. That's not so important to me at this time. But so learning to be in the heart connects us to our spiritual self and the higher dimensions. Also, I'm going to do another segment on the nature of reality, but basically the nature of reality as it applies to what we're doing here has to do with the illusion of time and space. I love it when people say, well, I only believe what I can touch and what I can feel. But actually what we can touch and feel are the illusion. Because as soon as we drop into the physical, what we find is it's just made of light and vibration. So what does that mean? So as we connect to our heart, we're actually connecting to the higher levels of subtlety and the multi-dimensional idea that has to do with duality and non-duality. And so being in the heart is essential. Now the Buddhists talk about bodhicitta, which is the innate compassion, the innate Buddha nature or Christ consciousness that exists within each being. And as we uncover the layers of our wounding patterns and our trauma, what happens is this natural connecting being comes out. And that natural connecting being is what connects us to the universe and people. It's the basis of real compassion, not cerebral compassion, but the innate expression of connection with all life and all consciousness. So working with the heart is a primary piece of what we're doing. But the other part is begin to work with our ancestors and the physiology that connects us both in the physical and energetic to the momentum and wisdom of our ancestors. Now, a lot of people say, well, you know, my family's kind of screwed up. I don't really want to connect to my ancestors. But if you look at biological presence, and you look at the activity of most mammals and many, many other strata of organisms, what you find is there's a deep caring and concern for the offspring. We love our children, even people that are very wounded and damaged and that may be doing great harm to their children. When you really look at them very, very deeply, you'll find little cracks in their persona that indicate that there, in most people, that there is some caring, even though they can't quite access it. And so when we think about our ancestors, we're not just talking about the crazy personality of Aunt Lucy and Uncle Harry. We're talking about the deep, intrinsic, biological caring of all of our ancestors. And since time and space are the illusion, and in the non-dual reality of infinite connection, which is really what science, modern physiology, and ancient spiritual traditions from all the systems that I've looked at really talk about, is we are connected out of that in that timeless area to all of our ancestors. Now, years ago, there was a book called Clan of the Cave Bear, and she talked about going into her ancestral memories and, you know, finding the use for medicines and finding locations. It was 800,000 years ago in Europe. It's a novel. But I believe that there's truth in that. I believe that as we connect to our ancestors, we can begin to get wisdom, information, and amazing support, not from the crazy personality, but from the deep intrinsic biological caring for our offspring. Now, in Chinese medicine, we talk about the ancestors being carried and connected via the kidneys. And what I've learned to do is go into the pulse, because in Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine, Vedic medicine, we use pulse diagnosis. I can feel the quality of the parental bonding, usually the personality of the parent, often the grandparent, sometimes the caregiver. It's not just me, anybody can get it, you just have to think about it in the right way. So what we know for sure is there's a momentum of connection from our ancestors up through the kidneys and also morphogenically in the energetic system. And so what we want to do is eventually open up the heart and connect it to the higher levels, open up our body and connect to the momentum of our ancestors, so that we have the wisdom of our ancestors and the love and support and nourishment, again, not from the crazy personality, but from the essential being, the essential caring for our offspring that's intrinsic in most life forms, if not all. And then what happens is we have channels in the physical body, both physical and energetic, and very subtle. And so by opening up the quality of circulation on those three levels, physical, energetic, and even more subtle, what happens is we can connect the kidneys, which is the momentum of our ancestors, with a spiritual and transdimensional connection of the heart. And then what happens is we find that now I'm a whole human being because I'm connected to myself. I'm connected spiritually to the higher dimensions. I'm getting information out of time and space in a non-dual nature. And I'm also getting information, support, and nourishment from my ancestors. And that rests in the physical body. So we're going to cut into a picture of the Chinese character for Buddha. And the Chinese character for Buddha is fascinating because you have a picture of the front channel here, you have a picture of the back channel, and then you have a clear space inside with a very loose connection. And what happens is that shows us that a Buddha is somebody whose channels are very clear and open with spaciousness. And that's where we're going in the work that we're going to do together. So thank you very much for coming back. I'll see you again in the next segment.